వచ్చేస్తున్నా. Ahalya Amaikuralu. All of us have heard about Ahalya. We talk about her, there are references of her in movies, songs, and stories. But either we talk about her as someone who was guilty or someone who was a victim. So today we'll be discussing about this book, Ahalya'S Awakening by Kavita Kane. Now, the main tagline of this book is seduced by Indra, cursed by Gautama, and liberated by Rama. So even though the different narratives of Ahalya's, God, it's very hot. లోపలికి వెళ్ళిపోదామా? 1 minute.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Apart from all of this, stating the facts, who was Ahalya? We probably know her as someone who was very meek and weak and helpless. But who was she? I mean, was she a princess? Was she an apsara? Did she have dreams? So according to this book, Ahalya was the princess of the Puru dynasty. She was the daughter of King Mudgal and Queen Alayani, and she was always interested in education. She didn't want to be a princess, she wanted to be a Rishika. But since she's from the royal family, her parents and her family don't really support her in terms of being a Rishika, in terms of her dreams. And Lord Indra, the Casanova of the gods, he chases her. He is romantically interested in her and he wants to marry her. But Ahalya is not interested. All she wants is just to get educated. So when her father's kingdom is under the threat of a war, they send Ahalya to Rishi Gautam's ashram for shelter. And that is when Rishi Gautam and Ahalya, they meet, they fall in love, and they get married. But that's not the end of the story. The real story starts now. This story is not really a fairy tale. It is a very relatable story because, you know, first they have this beautiful love story, they fall in love, they have this great love between them, they respect each other a lot, they support each other a lot. And then after a few years, you can see how a marriage actually diminishes in real life. So that's exactly what happens between the two of them. So Gautam promises Ahalya that he's going to give her all the support she needs in terms of education. He's also a rishi and he has dreams of being a maharishi, and Ahalya has dreams of being a rishika. So both of them, they give each other that unconditional support in the beginning, and they run an ashram together, they have lots of disciples, they give birth to children. But in the midst of all of this, somewhere along the way, Gautam stops being a husband. He becomes a very absent husband, he becomes a very absent father. Ahalya starts feeling neglected. And so towards the end of the book, just like I mentioned in the liberation of Sita, Sita meets Ahalya in the forest. So towards the end of this book as well, Ahalya meets Sita. And what she tells Sita is, it's very exhausting for women to identify themselves as a daughter, as a wife, as a sister, or as a mother. You know, they don't have their own personal identity, and that's what happened with Ahalya as well. First she was the daughter of King Mudgal and Queen Alayani, and then she became the wife of Rishi Gautam, then she became the mother of her children. But then she always wanted, she was a very ambitious woman, she always wanted to have an identity of her own. But she really couldn't achieve that because she had other responsibilities, she had other duties. And even though Gautam could give her that support in the beginning, he stopped being an husband, he stopped being a father, and eventually all the household duties were kind of imposed solely on Ahalya. That's when she stopped feeling loved, she started feeling neglected, and she starts feeling a little suffocated there. Now, the two main aspects that drive the theme of the story, or the core of the story, is independence or empowerment. So Ahalya wants to feel liberated, she wants to feel empowered. That's all she wanted since she was a child, even when she was a princess. And point number two, the sexual desires of a woman. So what really happened in Ahalya's case, if you see, I believe mythology is history. So when Ahalya'S story probably happened centuries and centuries ago. So what we have done as a society is first we saw her as someone who was very promiscuous, as someone who was an infidel wife. She cheated on her husband. And then eventually I think as a society we couldn't handle the fact that the wife of a great sage was an infidel. So we started sympathizing with her. We started to make her or portray her as a victim. But what we've forgotten as to see why Ahalya actually did that or the reasons of a story. So the main two themes that drive this book is this. Point number one is, did Ahalya want liberation and what did she do to gain that empowerment? And point number two is, did Ahalya know that it was Lord Indra who was in disguise, or did she not? So to end it a little bit, Ahalya knew what she was doing. She knew that it was actually Lord Indra and it was not Gautam. And for a moment, all she wanted was to feel alive because she stopped feeling loved. She forgot how it feels to be touched by a man. And that was important for her, as it is important for many other women as well. We don't talk about the sexual desires of women, we don't talk about the fact that even women like sex, and we don't even talk about sex in our society. For us, sex is either something very obscene, it's blasphemy, or it's a joke. We don't treat it with respect. So, what the author does in this book is she, as mentioned before, she doesn't really glorify Ahalya in any way, or nor does she reject her completely. She just writes a very simple story and something that I feel is extremely relatable to all of us. And then she portrays Ahalya, who was neither an accused nor a victim. She was just a woman who had her own dreams and ambitions, and she was left in that helpless state where everybody took her. వీళ్ళని ఇంకా చెప్పనివ్వట్లేదు. బట్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు నో మోర్ అబౌట్ అహల్య అండ్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ వై ఐ హేట్ ద టర్మ్ అహల్య మైక్రాలు, then please read this book Ahalya'S Awakening by Kavita Kane. And this is my channel. I keep talking about books and movies and literature and anything that comes across my mind. And if you happen to know any movie or book that I might like to read, then don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video.
సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చెప్పావా నువ్వు అసలు?
చెప్పాను
విన్నావా?
చెప్పాను.
ఓకే. కట్.